First off, yes, I know, it's March. Shut up. Second, it's time to close the book on the 2010s. No more useless and unproductive anger. Time to be happy. Time to be positive. Let's talk about some really great movies, because for as shit as my January 2020 and December 2019 were, 2019 as a whole really was filled with some spectacular pieces of cinema. Blockbusters, studio dramas and comedies, crime movies, movies from legendary filmmakers, more personal science fiction pieces, horror movies, independent films, and even fucking TV movies. They each had hit after hit after hit. There was not one bad movie that came out this year. Yeah, shut the fuck up! I already talked about you too! So yeah, with so many wonderful films from the past year, I actually wasn't even able to keep it down to just 10 movies, so I bumped it up to 15, which means this video is going to be longer than the 2017 and 2018 videos. But before we go any further, please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with your friends. I really want to just grow my channel in 2020. I really want to get more people to watch my videos, so please just make sure you get other people to see this. Number 15, Joker. You know, I was really lukewarm on this movie at first, but the more I've thought about it, and the more I've seen other people try to tear it a new one, the more I've really come to like it. Joaquin Phoenix and Hildur Guðnadóttir, I probably said that wrong, both knock it out of the goddamn park in their respective fields. And honestly, I find that I actually kind of relate to Arthur Fleck. A lot of his mannerisms remind me of some of my own as an autistic individual. His frustrations with his work reminded me of some of my own, especially when his boss confronts him about the missing sign from the bankrupt business. I mean, Arthur just gets this look on his face like he's actively trying to hold in just how pissed off this whole thing is making him. And you know what? Screw it. The Joker is my favorite comic book villain. And when Phoenix actually does become the Joker, he really is phenomenal. And you know what else? I just plain find the story of an ostensibly kind man who loves to make children laugh and smile, evolving into a monster who finds it hilarious that a small boy's parents were murdered right in front of him. Really compelling, to be honest. I find the story of an ordinary man becoming a monster really interesting. Number 14, Hustlers. I had no idea Jennifer Lopez was such a great actress. I knew she was a decent singer, I knew she was an incredible dancer, but I had no idea she was such a charismatic performer on the big screen. Every time she's on screen, your attention is focused on her. And every time she's not on screen, your attention is actually still focused on the screen, because J-Lo, as Ramona, while still incredible, is not actually the lead of the film. The lead is the nearly just as great Destiny, played by the amazing Christina Wu, who does a great job as the emotional center of this film. There's 4 specific moments in this film where Destiny's choices suddenly make all the sense in the world. A Wall Street guy pressured me into blowing him for $200, only to give me a pair of 10s, and now Ramona is back and suggesting we drug these Wall Street guys and use up their credit cards? Yeah, you know what? Maybe they have it coming. Wait, one of the Wall Street guys we drugged just jumped out of his own second-story window and onto his concrete patio? Oh, fuck. You know what? I'm out. Oh, fuck, my sweet grandmother just died. Okay. Maybe I'll go back to my best friend. I mean, even if she is a criminal, it's not like she's gone too far yet, and now she's stealing from the father of an autistic child whose house recently burned down. She's definitely gone too far now. I'm done for sure. And even then, it's a hard choice, because for as much as Destiny may want out, she still adores Ramona. She's her best friend and helped her so much when she needed it, which makes it all just so wonderfully sad. Number 13, Ad Astra. God, I love space movies. I just love movies about outer space. I love outer space in general. I love to just sit back sometimes and think about how beautiful our universe is. And my God, does Ad Astra make our universe look gorgeous. Like, look at the surfaces of the moon and Mars. Look at Neptune's rings and her atmosphere. Isn't she just beautiful? Isn't she just so goddamn pretty? And on top of the pretty pictures, we also have a kick-ass performance from the ever-amazing Brad Pitt. He's a very emotionally repressed character here. He's almost incapable of self-expression, which leads into his character arc, acknowledging his emotions and allowing himself to feel things. Less in an equilibrium sort of way, and more in a just being a healthy introvert kind of way. Also, in a long history of abusive fathers pretending they give a damn, it's oddly refreshing to hear Tommy Lee Jones as Brad's father say, "You and your mom, I never cared about either of you. I never cared about anyone, really. All that mattered was my exploration, learning about the universe." And piggybacking off of that point, I like that Brad just kind of accepts that. He'd long since realized his father wasn't a good man, let alone a good parent, and he doesn't really have any desire to fight. He doesn't have any reason to argue. "No, I know you loved us, Dad. Don't say that." He just takes it. "I never cared about you, son." "I know, Dad." And he just accepts his father for who he was, which in turn allows Brad to realize where his detachment from life on Earth is going to lead him, and in turn allows him to reconnect with his friends and family back home. In other words, a couple days with your dad really puts life into perspective. Number 12, Fighting with My Family. This is a movie more or less about growing up. Paige, the main character of this biopic, one of her big lessons is learning to let go of some of the more sexist viewpoints she had instilled in herself. And I don't mean that, like, sexist against boys, that's stupid. I mean, like, as feminists might say, internalized misogyny. Like how she initially looks down on the other women wrestlers in NXT because they all started in modeling or cheerleading. But she later comes to respect them because they may not have come up with her passion for wrestling, but they all have honest reasons for trying to make it in the WWE. There's also her arc of learning to accept her own strength and talent, so her feminist theme. When the NXT scout picks her over her brother, she spends a lot of the movie either saying, "He should be here, I shouldn't," or saying, "They should both be here." And the movie ends with Paige claiming the WWE Diva belt and declaring that the ring is where she belongs, or rather,
"My name is Paige, and this is my house now!"
And not just that, but we also have an arc of Paige's brother going from angry and bitter that his own sister claimed what should have been his, to accepting his role as a local wrestler for his family's independent company that helps out the local kids. And on top of all that, hey, who doesn't love a good sports movie? Number 11, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, I really liked this movie at first. So much so, I actually went to see the extended cut in October, just before it left theaters, and I found myself really annoyed because the so-called extended cut was just 2 commercials for a made-up brand of beer and a made-up brand of cigarettes. And it really lowered the movie in my esteem, which I guess really just shows how much I liked the damn movie, because it still made it to number 11 on my list of top 15 movies. I love everything about this goddamn movie. I love the friendship between Leo and Brad Pitt. I love how charismatic Brad Pitt is as Cliff Booth, especially compared with his more introspective character in Ad Astra. I love how relatable DiCaprio is as Rick fucking Dalton. Let's face it, we've all had a moment like Rick does in his trailer on the set of that Western show. I love that Margot Robbie happily agreed to be a character who just lives her life. She's no one dramatic. She's a nice girl who happens to be a big name in the Hollywood industry. I love the dynamics in all her friendships in the movie, because again, nothing dramatic. Just a bunch of rising stars enjoying all their lives together. And I really love that Tarantino mercifully does not have Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate murdered by the Manson family, because A, I do not want to see the nice pregnant woman get murdered, and B, I do not want to see a woman and I have a celebrity crush on get murdered. But instead, he actually has the sick bastards torn apart by Brad and his dog. And seeing that sweet little big-headed girl, Sayori, as Brandy, brutally maim a bunch of sick cultists alone is worth the price of admission all on its own. Number 10, The Farewell. This one was a grower for me. When I first watched it, I really liked it, but I found it a little underwhelming. But the more it sat in my brain, the more I came to really appreciate it. The relationship between Awkwafina's Billy Wang and her grandmother is so sad, but so touching. And I really can't help but enjoy the discussion between the members of the Wang family about what it means to be Chinese versus what it means to be American. And at what point do you stop being one and start being the other? Cultural assimilation and cultural differences has always been a subject of fascination for me. Whenever I'm not watching stuff about movies or watching something about comics, I actually spend a lot of time watching videos discussing, well, differences in cultures. It's been mostly differences between America and Europe, and I would really enjoy finding more videos about the differences between America and Asia, but that's a different thing. But what I really found interesting was hearing about how Billy's mother and father, they came from China, they lived to be adults in China, and then they moved to America and lived there for probably 17, 16 years. And at this point, they just don't consider themselves Chinese anymore. They've adapted to living in America, and they just plain consider it their home now. I think that's really interesting. Number 9, The Irishman. I've never suffered from clinical depression, but thinking of it now, this movie actually makes me think of what I assume depression is like. A purely melancholic void where joy is impossible to find. It starts out kind of fun like most gangster movies, honestly. But as it progresses, it becomes less about the wish fulfillment of being a violent criminal and more about how violence slowly but surely takes a toll on your soul, pardon the rhyme. Again, that's like most gangster movies. But The Irishman makes you feel that toll. Compare this to Goodfellas, another Scorsese classic. When you come to the end, the deepest regret of Henry Hill, Ray Liotta's character, is that he's just a normal man now. He doesn't have the power, respect, or the money that comes from being a criminal. The deepest regret of Frank Sheeran, Robert De Niro's character in The Irishman, is that being a criminal cost him his best friend, cost him 13 years in prison, and cost him the love of his family. And now, instead of a vicious gangster, we see a sad old man who is just a shell of a person now. And he's slowly having to deal with the fact that no one's going to be upset when he dies. And this is just all on top of the fantastic performances from De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci, the last of whom does an especially nice job playing against type. In Casino and Goodfellas, his character is someone who's very vulgar, hot-tempered, and reckless. But in The Irishman, Pesci's Russell Buffalino is polite, intelligent, soft-spoken, and absolutely ruthless. It's wonderful. Number 8, El Camino. I went back and forth about whether or not I can put this in my list. At first I thought, it's great, but it's Netflix. And then I thought, well, The Irishman is practically designed for Oscar contention. But then I thought, yeah, it's great, but it's based on a TV show. And then I thought, well, I would easily put All the Way in my top 10 of 2016, and that is a TV movie. And I also thought, Wrath of Khan is one of the greatest movies ever made, and that's a Star Trek movie. So you know what? Fuck it. This movie is one of the best of the year. Aaron Paul coming back to Jesse Pinkman is one of the best decisions he's made in years because this is his best performance in years. The entire time he's been trying to break into cinema, this is what he needed to do. He just needed to go back to being Jesse Pinkman. An especially great moment is the scene where he has a gun on Jesse Plemons as Todd, and you can see him struggling with whether or not to pull the trigger. And speaking of Todd, well, it's a little odd to see him looking a bit huskier than he did at the end of Breaking Bad because his scenes take place before the end of the series. Plemons, though, is still fantastically creepy in the role. Even when Todd's ostensibly trying to be friendly, you always get the feeling it's an act and he's trying to trick Jesse so we can hurt him more. And plus, I just plain love that we actually get to see some of Jesse dealing with his trauma, both in the sense that he has to deal with certain PTSD triggers, and with the fact that he actually has to confront one of the people who helped Todd make him a prisoner. And when you see Jesse finally ride off into the sunset in the middle of frigid-ass Alaska, you really feel happy for the guy. He's free. He's free from all of his tormentors. Free from Todd, free from Walter, free from the family that no longer gives a damn about him, and free for anyone who'd exploit him for his skills as a drug manufacturer. That's all you need. Number 7. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. What the hell else could you possibly want? Maybe a plot about how Mr. Rogers helps a cynical journalist repair his relationship with his sick father who he resents. Or maybe help set cynical journo forge a stronger relationship with his wife and their infant son. Maybe both? Jeez, what else do you want? Do you want a rather endearing performance from Robert Patrick as the journalist's father, a man who freely and openly admits to making several mistakes in the past, but is trying his hardest to be a better man? Or maybe a compelling portrayal of a depressed cynic who desperately wants to see the worst in people, but for whatever reason, just can't find anything devious about Fred Rogers, and is forced to conclude he really is that good, isn't he? Well, good news then. That is all here, and it is all wonderful. So wonderful. Number 6. Knives Out. Rian Johnson, I apologize for bitching about The Last Jedi. You're obviously a co-creative genius. The twists and turns here are masterful and brilliant. You have Chris Evans playing an asshole again, Ana de Armas playing not a sexbot character, and Daniel Craig playing a southern sleuth. These are all master strokes, and bringing it all back to Christopher Plummer's coffee cup from the opening, that is the kind of stuff that makes me wish I could write movies. Well done, sir. So well done. Number 5. Booksmart. I say it every year I do these lists. I love coming-of-age movies. I love them when they're funny. I love them when they're serious. I love when they're funny but have a serious undertone. And you know what else I love? Olivia Wilde. This movie already had my curiosity piqued when I saw one of the main girls was Saoirse Ronan's friend in Lady Bird, which was one of my favorite movies from 2017. But my complete and undivided attention was here when I saw this would be 13 from House's directorial debut. And I gotta say, it was a terrific debut. Speaking as a former high school student who had very condescending opinions about his fellow classmates, I relate a lot to the story of an overachiever having a breakdown because she realized her fellow students were just as intelligent as she is. Except for the overachiever part, because my 2.0 ass didn't even have the grades to justify being so holier than thou. But that aside, a tight-ass girl like Beanie Fedelstein's Molly dragging herself and her best friend around town to just find the right awesome party while absolutely refusing to have any actual fun when they end up at the wrong one, that's just hilarious. And what's so wonderful about Molly and Caitlin Deaver's Amy is that they're such wonderful friends with such excellent chemistry, and when they have their big fight at the end, it really hits all the harder, which really makes their happy makeup scene feel so relieving. And moreover, Molly's character arc of being a so-called feminist who also slut-shames other girls in her school for being sexually active to an actual feminist who embraces the difference between herself and others is really the best kind of character arc. Number 4. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Did you see the first 5 minutes of this movie? Did you see the sequence with Keanu, Hallie, and Hallie's dogs? Did you see the motorcycle chase? Did you see the sequence in the Continental Lobby? Did you see Keanu versus the Raid guys? Or versus Mark Dacascos? If the answer to my questions is yes, then I rest my case. Excluding CBMs and martial arts films, this is the best action film of the decade, bar fucking none. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, fucking retire, motherfuckers, because Keanu Reeves has this shit locked the fuck down. Number 3, Rocketman. This movie is so fucking good. It honors Sir Elton John's career in such a beautiful way. And unlike other recent musician biopics, it actually pays respect to the musician it's depicting, while also not flinching away from said musician's less admirable qualities. And unlike those other movies, Taron Egerton actually sings, and sings pretty darn well, in addition to killing it in the acting department. And the child actors who portray Elton at ages 5 and 12 are pretty fantastic as well, both as singers and as actors. Plus, the other actors in the film kick just as much ass, with special credit reserved for Richard Madden as John Reed and Jamie Bell as Bernie Taupin. 3 extra details I love in particular are how, 1, Elton arrives in rehab dressed in a flamboyant devil costume, which he slowly strips away as he reveals more and more of his trauma until he's left in just a bathrobe, ostensibly naked, before appearing in all white for his rendition of I'm Still Standing, as if to say he's stripped away all the worst parts of himself and is now ready to walk back into the light a better man. 2, I love how the actual score uses Elton's songs. Like how an orchestral version of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road plays when Elton walks into rehab at the start of the movie, or how Elton as a child is dreaming of conducting an orchestra, and the tune the orchestra plays is Rocketman. Which leads me into my third point. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Rocketman. Both versions of the songs are duets. Rocketman starts with Elton as a little boy singing to his adult self, and his adult self singing back to him. Little Elton just starts Rocketman normal, but he sings it when Elton has just tried to commit suicide. And Elton, as an adult, basically says, I miss the earth so much. I miss my home. I miss my life. More or less saying, I really miss the person I was before I became whatever the hell this is. And then you have Jamie Bell and Taron Egerton's version of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Jamie starts the song and comes from a very bitter and angry place. Maybe you'll get a replacement. There's plenty like me to be found. Mongrels who ain't got a penny, sniffing for tidbits like you on the ground. Or in other words, I am done with you, you drama queen. I'm done with being treated like something expendable. Goodbye, Elton. Whereas Terrence Elton approaches the song from a very broken and lonely place, while also trying desperately not to lose his smile as he sings into his reflection. So what do you think he'll do then? I bet they'll shoot down the plane. He'll take you a couple of vodka and tonics to set you on your feet again. In other words, you're not looking so great there, pal. What am I going to do with myself? What am I going to do with my life? Does anyone even care what I do? Am I just doomed to just be this person forever? And both versions end with the characters singing the chorus as they both resolve to leave for somewhere where the world makes some kind of fucking sense. In Jamie Bella's Bernie's case, where the world makes sense is his home in the country. In Elton's case, it's rehab. You can't plant me in your penthouse. I'm going back to my plow. oh, I finally decided my future lies beyond the yellow brick road. In other words, to quote a group of admittedly less talented musicians, it's not too late. It's never too late. Number 2, Dr. Sleep. This is also such a fucking good movie. So many people would drag the idea of a sequel to The Shining, and then it turned out so wonderfully. The scene where Ewan McGregor as Danny Torrance confronts Henry Thomas as his father, as Lloyd the bartender, is worth the price of admission alone. Danny tries so hard to break through to the man his father was, in the hopes of some kind of answer about who he was and why he did what he did when he was only a child. But when Jack Torrance finally breaks through, all he has to say is not only did he not care about Danny or his mother, like Tommy Lee Jones and Ad Astra, he actively hated them. He hated spending time with them, providing for them, caring for them. It all genuinely felt like torment. And the only solace was the warm, sweet feeling of liquor. And you can see Ewan as Danny really try like hell not to tear up as his father says these things to him. He probably always thought liquor might have just made his dad a monster, and that beneath it all, his dad still loved him and his mom. But in truth, there was no love. Only cold resentment, born from a feeling of societal obligation. But that only shows what a better man Danny is than his father. Danny managed to quit drinking. Even when a drink sounded like the greatest idea in the world, he wouldn't do it. Danny gets involved in some mess with a little girl he doesn't even know and a cult of evil hippies who feed on children with psychic powers, and he does it because, god damn it, this girl needs his help. Does it kill him in the end? Sure, but at least this little girl he didn't even know is safe, and the cult of evil hippies who feed on children with psychic powers are dead. I call that a win. And before we get into number 1, let's do some honorable mentions real quick. A, Parasite. I actually saw this one at the local art museum in Flint, and thinking of it now, that's either the bougiest way I could have seen it or the most down-to-earth way. Either way, while I liked other films from last year with themes of class struggle, I do think this movie did it best. Mostly because class struggle was incidental to films like Joker or Hustlers, whereas class struggle isn't just subtextual here, it's just text. The text here is these two poor families have to lie, cheat, steal, and even kill each other so that they can keep working for this one wealthy family because they need to get this bread, as the kids were saying like 8 months ago, I think. And honestly, Park Sodam, or Sodam, chilling on top of a pissed-off toilet seat while having a cigarette while her whole neighborhood floods, is such a mood. B, Avengers Endgame. I'm really not sure what to say here. It's literally the biggest movie of the decade, arguably of all time. And for my money, I really can't think of a better way to end the MCU's Infinity Saga. One of my biggest issues with the MCU is their apparent allergy to consequences. Like how Civil War is supposed to be the permanent breakup of the Avengers, but it apparently ends with Cap offering Tony a means of communication, and Tony in turn accepts the offer by mocking Secretary Ross and keeping the cell phone without really giving an indication that he might know where Cap is. Endgame, however, shows that no, Tony is still pissed with Steve, and it took them 5 years for them to truly reconcile. And moreover, the plot to undo what Thanos did revolves around the heroes more or less hitting the reset button, as opposed to stopping Thanos from ever snapping his fingers or getting the Infinity Stones in the first place. They're going to bring everyone back 5 years from when they were taken. They're not going to bring them back 5 months later. They're doing it after the whole world has changed irrevocably, which is something that actually pisses me off about a different Marvel movie, but we're here to talk about good stuff. And the good stuff? I really think the ending is just perfect. The final battle with Thor dual-wielding Mjolnir and Stormbreaker before Cap takes the hammer for himself, Carol Danvers no-selling a headbutt from the purple asshole, Wanda physically ripping apart said purple asshole, and Tony's self-sacrifice with his legendary final words. Yep, I can't think of anything better to cap off this saga. I really can't. C. Ford versus Ferrari. I'm not sure what to say here. Matt Damon and Christian Bale are their most charismatic. Katarina Balfe is fantastic as Christian's wife. The races are awesome. The story about Carol Shelby and Ken Miles' friendship is pretty darn wonderful. The sense of humor in this movie is really on point, and it's James Mangold. What else could you possibly want? See the fucking movie if you can. It's pretty darn good. D. Richard Jewell. This one here is less because of the movie itself and more because of what happened while I was watching it. See, I live with my family, and the day I went to see this, I'd actually made plans to see Little Women with my mom and her friend. But when I woke up on the day we'd made plans for, I noticed she wasn't home. I was a little disappointed, but I figured, oh well, I'll just go by myself and we can do this some other time. So I check in with my mom, just to not worry her, and she says, dude, I thought we were going to go together. And I immediately felt like the worst son ever because I'm already at the theater now because I took an Uber. So we just agreed that today wouldn't be the day for our Mother Sunday. We'd do it some other time. And so I'm settled in for Richard Jewell when 15 minutes in, I noticed my mom's friend walk behind me. Or I noticed it because she specifically tapped me on the shoulder. I turned my head and I'm like, what the fuck? And I see my mom walking in and I just think, I love you so much. You were the best. I fucked up and we still got to have a nice time together. That makes me so happy. And on top of that, the movie itself is actually pretty darn good. Kudos in particular to Paul Walter Hauser. I really hope after playing a delusional doofus in I, Tonya and a racist doofus in Black Klansman, this movie really helps him break out as an actor who can play more than doofuses in movies, while a more attractive lead and their gorgeous love interest takes center stage. E. Ready or Not. This one is pretty straightforward. Boy meets girl, boy marries girl, girl has to go through some strange ritual to join boy's family. Boy's family tries over the course of 12 hours to brutally murder girl in a ritual sacrifice. Girl survives the night only to witness her new husband and in-laws explode into a bloody mess like their Rorschach from Watchmen, and they just bump into Dr. Manhattan. Girl is saluted by Satan himself for her cunning. Girl inherits her new family's wealth, and I mean, we've all been there once or twice, am I right? Not an original concept or anything. Yeah. Joking aside, though, I really do love how this movie ends. The main character decides she's had enough of her crazy-ass in-laws and decides she doesn't want anything to do with this family. Nothing. Not anything. And her husband overhears this. And being the selfish coward he is, he decides, well, if he can't have his wife, no one can. And he calls his family in to kill her. And then, of course, it turns out, oh shit, the magic says we can't kill you anymore. Fuck. And when they both realize he's about to die, he tries to beg for her forgiveness in hopes that it'll save him. And she just tells him she wants a divorce. And then he fucking explodes right in front of her. Which is kind of perfect, isn't it? Isn't it? It is. And we return to the main list with number 1, Uncut Gems. So, over the years, I heard people say Adam Sandler is a good, serious actor, and I believed them, but I never really looked into his work until seeing that he was doing an A24 movie with Idina Menzel, of all people, as his wife. And so I saw this the day after Christmas, because of course, I had to see it. The line from the trailers, "This is me, this is how I win," makes it worthy of a movie ticket alone. And I was immediately run over by how incredibly anxiety-inducing this story about what a ridiculous gambling addict this man is. Yet never once could I look away willingly, because I was so enthralled by how exciting and intense this goddamn movie was. The minute you think Sailor is in the clear, or things either fall apart, or Sailor just screws himself over by betting the money he was supposed to pay off his debts with, it's enough for you to just scream at the screen, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And yet, you're still sucked in by everything you see. The movie itself feels like gambling in a way. At first, you bet a little bit of money, and you actually win big. So, you bet a little more. And you lose a little bit, but you think, hey, one more won't hurt. And then you lose even more than you did before. So you think, okay, one more try, then I'll go home. And then you win even bigger than you did the first time, and you think, holy hell, let's do it again. Let's do that again. And then you lose the house. Imagine that roller coaster of emotions and apply it to the way this movie is paced, and you'll know what it feels like to watch it, and it is so awesome. And that was my top 15 of 2019. Will we miss that year? Oh my god, no! But did we still have fun? Well, yeah, we did. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry for anyone who was actually waiting for this. I've just had the worst writer's block these past few weeks, but hopefully we'll get to work again soon. Like I already mentioned in my worst of the year video, I have some other projects lined up that I'm just really jazzed about. I'm going to be doing videos for Star Wars Rogue One, Solo a Star Wars Story, and Star Wars Episode 9. I'm going to do a video discussing Krypton Seasons 1 and 2, a video discussing Matt Reeves and Rupert Wyatt's Planet of the Apes trilogy, a video comparing and contrasting the 2003 and 2010 animes based on Hiromu Okara's Full Metal Alchemist manga. We'll be doing another top 15 video, the subject for that being the top 15 theatrically released comic book films of the 2010s, and so much more, I promise you. In the meantime, check out all my videos from 2019. I've done videos for Robert Rodriguez's Alita Battle Angel, No Muro and Zack Snyder's 300 Rise of an Empire, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, Patty Jenkinson's Wonder Woman, James Wan's Aquaman, David F. Sandberg's Shazam, Neil Marshall's Hellboy, Marvel's Avengers Infinity War, Oliver Stone's W and Adam McKay's Vice, the Predator and Alien vs. Predator franchises, the first SpongeBob movie, Todd Phillips' Joker, Vince Gilligan's El Camino, Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep, Star Wars Episodes 7 and 8. All of those videos will be linked in one playlist down below. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day. And once again, please like and subscribe, and comment and share with your friends. And once more, Happy New Year, everyone. And Happy Valentine's Day.
And Happy St. Patrick's Day while we're at it.
Woodstock, out.